Yeah, I want to get to in 1 second because you like this. This is not one of your favorites either. Charlie Rangel, and the wrangling over Rangel's congressional seat. The 22-term congressman. Think about that for a second. 22 terms here. Could he actually be losing ground in the battle to keep the 13th district in what will be his swan song? Now, the Bronx Democratic Party is endorsing not the incumbent here, but his challenger, Adriano Espaillat. Now, in an interview with the New York Daily News, Bronx Party insider said having the entire Bronx Democratic apparatus behind his opponent is a huge blow to Rangel, who will now have little, if any, institutional support in the borough. And Dominic, there's been criticisms that he doesn't even have an office in the Bronx here, speaking of Charlie Rangel. The math is, I guess, what the math is and how the redistricting's worked. He never wanted his district to be anything but really Harlem and the surrounding area in Manhattan, but now he's got to deal with the Bronx. Does he think at the end of the day, whatever infrastructure and that the church leaders are going to get behind him here, or is he worried they're going to sit it out or could actually go for somebody else?
Well, what's this? The handwriting's on the wall. The congressman's time.
He is not going to go quietly into good night.
Anything can happen, but the congressman's time is over.
You think so?
Definitely, the entire political establishment, except for Senator Schumer,
right?
except for Senator Schumer, who's in his corner. But last time I checked, Schumer can't really motivate the demographics of this district.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't surprise me that Bronx officials are lining up behind Espaillat when you consider the Latino demographics of the Bronx. It makes sense. What's playing in Rangel's favor is that this is a June election, and so we don't know how that's really going to play out. Yeah. But the congressman time is up.
Not only is it a June election, it's a primary and an off-year election and a midterm election.
Yeah, which
so it's not.
It always goes to the incumbent.
But why do you think? I mean, there was not that many years ago. He was beloved. Okay, why do you think so many people are willing to stick it to Rangel, who said this is going to be his last race anyway? If you think about it, they'll get somebody new in 2 years. Why are so many people willing to cross him now?
Because he wore out his welcome, one. Two, the White House has signaled he's not our guy. He doesn't have the greatest of relationships with President Obama, and he's just seen as part of the old guard. If you look at the Harlem community, it has drastically changed. And he's considered the past. And, whether it's right or not, and whether or not you're losing his seniority or not, people feel, it appears, that it's time to move on.
Would you ever have thought Charlie Rangel could have been beatable as a congressman?
Well, I mean, now, yes, absolutely.
No, not now, a wise guy. I'm saying, do you ever think before that this is a beatable candidate? I never could have imagined.
No, I wouldn't.
He's
I wouldn't
an institution.
Exactly, I wouldn't have imagined it. In the past 60 years, Harlem's had two representatives, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and Charlie Rangel. But no, you would never think that he would be beatable. Strom Thurmond ran until his 90s. They said to him, "Listen, you can't run anymore." And he said, "You know what? Screw that. I'm going to run." And he won, and he died in office. I don't think we need to have Charlie Rangel die in office. He should have passed the buck a long time ago. Remember, last term, 2 years ago, was supposed to be the last time he ran.
Right.
And he broke his promise, essentially. And because of that, you have people like the Bronx chairman, who was an African-American assemblyman, Carl Hastings, who's now backing Espaillat.
There's a third-party candidate here, Andrew. Arguably, that could siphon this thing off, too.
Go ahead.
No, and we'll see how that plays out. I was just going to point out that the ethics investigation for Rangel a couple of years ago, when he had to give up the chairmanship, the gavel for Ways and Means, I mean, that was a way to really funnel a lot of money back into the district. When he lost that access, you immediately got the sense that he would be beatable. It was just a matter of finding the right candidate in the right election.
Yeah. You know what's been quiet is I haven't heard Bill Clinton.
That's true.
I haven't heard the Clintons, who Charlie Rangel was part of the whole tour through Harlem when he set up.
And 2 blocks away was Bill Clinton's office. One thing that may save him, though, at the 11th hour, I don't know if this candidate's going to be on the ballot, but a Latina is believed to be on the ballot, and it may, I don't know, it may split the Latino vote.
The biggest thing in Charlie Rangel's favor, Congressman Rangel's favor, is the fact that the primary is in June.
Yep. Yeah.
And he has a power of incumbency. If he wins, it's because of that and that alone, not because he did anything spectacular.
A lot of people know who he is.
That's right.
People don't know Adriano.
That's right. And
So
Adriano,
you're saying
that's
the
his fault.
Republican doesn't have a good chance in Harlem. You heard it here first.
Snowball has a better chance in Hades than a Republican.
All right, it's official. New York State has sealed a deal on an $8 billion Medicaid waiver backed by Governor Cuomo. Now, for those of you who say, So what? I want you to think about this. The waiver designed to support struggling hospitals over the course of a 5-year period. That's with a B now, $8 billion. Now, it will be divided in 3 parts. $500 million goes towards the Interim Access Assurance Fund, which is going to give temporary funding for Medicaid safety net providers. Almost $6.5 billion will help hospitals reform their delivery systems, and another $1 billion and change will be set aside for other purposes. But the point of this is, I thought Capitol did a really good job in breaking this down. This was long ball that the governor knew and plotted out for more than 3 years. He sat down with SEIU, the unions, and said, all right, listen, I'm going to cut funding to the state here, but this is how it works. You guys are in trouble, the hospital's in trouble, we're going to work together here. And at the end of the day, he got the feds to put in $8 billion. He was able to reduce the costs of the state here and get more people and help out, especially hospitals, struggling hospitals here with coverage. We could say whatever we want about how much of a hard act the governor can be, but he knows how to play the game here. Not a lot of guys could have played this out, and especially this was a 3-year play, Dom.
It's an election year goodie. I'm not minimizing it because it can do a lot of good. And the last time I was in Brooklyn under the subway on Atlantic Avenue, driving past some of these hospitals, this is money that's very much needed and will define whether or not some doors are kept open or whether or not they're closed.
You know, look, kudos to the governor for being very,
I have a sense there's a butt coming.
there is, for being very political and knowing how to play the game. However, I disagree. He's doing such a fantastic. These are all gimmicks. Look, first of all, nothing on there.
$8 billion isn't a gimmick.
Look, but in terms of keeping the mayor thinks he's going to keep 3 hospitals open in Brooklyn, including Interfaith Hospital. None of that money says it's actually going to keep the hospitals open. And then what happens?
Where do you think it's going? The Richard St. Paul Fund?
Who knows where it's going, but it doesn't say to keep these hospitals open.
He'd be supporting if it went to the
Yeah,
Richard St. Paul.
absolutely.
I said it here today. I said it here today. Watch one of those or 2 of those hospitals close in the coming years. Secondly, whether it's cutting the toll rate on the bridge to Staten Island, whether it's I stopped Con Ed from raising their taxes, or you're getting $350 and property tax. I mean, these are all gimmicks that don't help. Unemployment in New York is still high.
We do a lot of day-to-day coverage where things
that will impress me.
You cover the hot issue of the day every single day for 3 weeks at a time, and it's hard to lose perspective, or it's easy to lose perspective. There is a long game in a lot of these things, and if Cuomo actually plotted out with those deals 3 years ago, working towards this deal, more power to him. That's why sometimes a little bit of perspective is needed on these day-to-day headlines that we
especially guys, this isn't Republican terror. We've seen a lot of governors screw up, like getting Head Start funding. We've seen other governors not being able to figure out even in the short term. But there's a select few that can figure out how they do the math. They say, it ain't going to work here. How do I get to here? And I got to plan this thing out 3 years. And you're right, it's an election year, no debate. But still, not every state got $8 billion here, especially, and we're able to cut their own outlay in the short term. Okay, coming up next year,
I said it here today.
It is D-Day when it comes to gun control in the state of New York, the SAFE Act, right? Well, gun owners who have assault weapons have till the end of the day here to register those firearms, or they're going to have to pay the price. We're going to have more on that and some really curious language around it from certain lawmakers after the break.